Hello and welcome again to Connected, the show that connects you with what's going on in Peterborough and the Kawartha Lakes. Today we're heading out on the water with Jack and Josh in search of treasures of a different sort, and we'll introduce you to the world of LARP. Not a LARPer? That's okay. David Ashby is here to explain it all.
My name is David Ashby. I'm the co-owner of Underworld LARP. LARP stands for Live Action Role-Playing Game. And we are on our site here in Fenelon Falls where we have built or are building a medieval village to run our live action role-playing game for players all across Ontario. You're probably asking what live action role-playing means. The best way we've always kind of described it is to think of like a murder mystery dinner party where you've been invited to sit down and play a character or role and find out who done it. In this case, we are weekend long. So it's like a big giant choose your own adventure book where we have a team of writers that start the beginnings of stories, they write the beginnings of stories. All of them are fantasy, medieval. Players come, they make characters based off our character rule set, and then they play their characters, play our stories, and through their actions decide the endings. So again, like a giant choose your own adventure book or an escape room that is a full weekend long.
So I'm Yoshi. I'm the head of plots, so I'm the lead writer as well as I do a lot of the organization of the NPCs or the non-playable characters in Underworld LARP. Most of the time I do a lot of the back-end stuff of making schedules, making sure everything's on time, as well as writing the entire main plot line that the players will play through.
My name's Alex. I'm a shaper and a player. I mostly help Yoshi make sure these things run properly.
You also write a bunch of the smaller stories and stuff like that go
Yep.
on the sidelines, like little side quests if we were to use video game terminology here. The way we start is mostly a lot of meetings, and we use a lot of like voice channels and stuff like that. And we usually have about one meeting a week at the minimum. And there I'll talk to a lot of my, the other shapers like Alex or the narrators who are basically just actors, and they come in and they will be the people who are giving the quests out to the players and stuff like that. And we start by writing the plot line of what we think should happen. Like, here are the people in the game and stuff that happens. So like, let's say there's a warlord that players need to go clear out and stuff like that. But we leave it pretty loose and open to what they want to do since it's a big open interactive game. And so we react a lot more to them. And so we'll make little things of like the warlord attacks with all his guys and they'll run into town center here and there'll be a big fight on the hill and stuff like that and people dying. And so we'll plan those things out, and then in between that we'll have all these little side quests for other players in between. And sometimes they might be combat or they might be more role play based where you talk to the people, you develop relationships, you're playing a different person in the game, and so you make this character and this character makes relationships with other people. And so there's moments like that instead of just, all just combat.
So for our smaller mods, we might have something where you have a bunch of players that will go out into the woods and they'll find a clearing that is lit up by a bunch of props and they have to like throw magic through these glowing hoops to open up a chest or, push the big red button. But at the end of the day, it's collaborative storytelling. So the most important thing is to react and give the players what they want. Because if they don't want to fight the big warlord and they all want to scatter into the woods, we gotta roll with that, and we'll move the story in that direction.
Underworld began quite a long time ago. LARPing's been around for a very long time. We have been around since the 90s. 4 years ago, we bought this land here in Fenelon Falls, and we are slowly developing it to be our own little medieval world. We were looking for about 3 years. We came here in the winter, and it didn't look great. There was a lot of ice, there was a lot of water, there wasn't much growth on the trees, and it looked very sparse. And we almost put an offer in on a place in Beaverton, which ended up being kind of swampy. We came back here in the spring while we were just killing some time, and we saw this place starting to bloom, and we all fell in love with it. So we have 100 acres, about 30 of it to the south here is all forest. So we've got trails cut through there, little camps set up where players, when they build their characters, they organize themselves into different camps. And there's probably about 6 or 7 different camps throughout the site, and we're developing more every single weekend. One of the benefits of being able to buy our own land, we have cabins and cabins full of costuming, weapon, makeup, all that kind of stuff. So the benefit to really being able to have something that we own is that we can build on it. So we can build things like stocks, we can build things like our crow's cage here, which we use as props to run our day-to-day games, to tell our stories. We have a fully functional trebuchet that we launch watermelons out of. We don't do it in-game, obviously, because watermelons would hurt someone. It's a prop that visually and optically looks good. Our cabins, archer towers, slowly building walls, all these things lend to creating an immersive experience. And immersion is really the heart of what we're selling here. The the more that you forget that you're playing a game, the more of an escape this is going to be to you. Constantly reminded that there's a real world out there, you're not really going to get into character. You're not going to be able to fully immerse yourself in escape. So the more kind of props and things that we can build, the better that immersive experience is. And that's why we go full out on costuming. We really do set the bar on what our monsters look like, what our NPC, we call them NPCs, non-playing characters. They're the ones that do the role playing and help us kind of further the stories. We really want to set the bar on kind of how they look. Part of the benefit of being an 18 plus LARP, a live action role playing game, is we get to do adult themed content. And at first everyone's gonna kind of sounds a little, ooh, what kind of role playing are you doing? It's not really like that, but we do let players make allies and enemies with each other and camps with each other. So as players organize and gather together, they start new friendships both in-game and out of game.
The first time we ever probably talked to you was when you were NPCing Morgaine.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw him, he was crying. Yeah,
Right.
and I remember we were fighting orcs, and I remember him, because it was like specifically orc children. It was a camp of orcs. Orcs are not great. But he was trying to protect them because he's a healer, right? And he's like screaming and telling people not to kill them. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna kill things. And I didn't understand, and then he was just like screaming and crying, and I was like, is this guy actually okay? I'm not sure if he's okay.
I was fine, by the way.
Yeah. So I did end up still shooting things. But that was how I met him.
Yeah, so I was very much in the moment trying to like protect these kids, and I had very strong purpose, and I kind of got lost in that, and I guess people noticed me for the first time and were like, oh boy. But then when I first started talking to Erica, it's because she, instead of like being her character, she was playing an NPC, which is like kind of like a story character that's run by the game. And she was playing a character that had been relevant like years ago that came back. And she played it really well. And I'm like, hey, this girl's cool. So I started talking to her. I talked to her the next day when she was back in character. And yeah, we just, like, over quarantine, we started chatting a lot, and we just became pretty good friends after that.
Played video games like almost every single day.
Yeah, we're literally playing video games last night.
Yeah.
And they also group together in different camps. We'll have 6 or 7 different little areas throughout the forest that players can gather together, and sometimes they don't like each other. Sometimes they're not friends. Sometimes camps attack camps. Sometimes camps ally with other camps and defend other camps. The game exists from Friday night at 10 p.m. till Sunday at 2 p.m. And during that entire time, you're in game. There is no out of game when you sleep. The only time you can go out of game is if you're going to the bathroom. But you eat, drink, and play, 24/7. And that includes sleeping. So camps will set up, they may set up guards, rotating guard shifts. You always got to keep somebody kind of aware that, the guy next to you could be a guy that wants to take your character out. And if your character dies, it's not the end of the world. We have a system here of resurrection, so it's not like you die once and you're gone from the game permanently. That can happen, and it does happen. And when your character finals, you can make a new character. You can also volunteer to play our monsters for a little bit as well. And that's to give like a wide option here for you to kind of keep yourself entertained. We own Underworld LARP here in Fenelon. We also own the parent company Underworld Global, and we've actually franchised our game out all across Canada, the US, and Japan. So we own the Toronto chapter, the Kawartha Lakes, really in reality, where our site is. And if you're interested in playing, you can just find us at larp.ca. You can find the chapter that's closest to you if you're not in this area, or if you're in London or Ottawa. From there, you can find our rule books. They'll teach you how to make a character, how to role play, what expectations are put upon you, and they're not a lot. We have a full crafting community where our players will teach you how to make the basics of costuming, the basics of padded weapons that we use for fighting. They'll go through safety checks, how to best do combat, how to best cast spells. The most beautiful part of all LARPing in general is the community. It's a family that you never knew you had, full of people who enjoy the things that you wouldn't normally see in like a live in the real world, and they help each other. So you end up building such beautiful friendships. We joke we would make more money as a dating service than we would running a LARP. We've had people get married on site. They found each other in game and then they got married. The community itself is probably the biggest selling point if we ever had to say why would you want to LARP, because it's a great opportunity to meet an entire group of people that all love the same thing you do, and they also help you. So if you're a new player and it's a little overwhelming, you're not really sure how to get started, you can just join our community, our larp.ca, and somebody, a new player liaison or just a general veteran will help take you under your wing, and we'll get you started.